We're going to review the 4 problems that you solved in your math workbook on page 120 in just a moment. Before we begin, we're going to review what we've learned about area so far. We know to find the area of a rectangle, we must multiply length times width. So if this is my length and that's my width, we know that we're going to need to multiply those two together in order to find the area of our rectangle. We've also learned how to find the area of a triangle. To find the area of the triangle, we have to find half of the base times the height. We've also written this as base times height divided by 2. Remember, both of those formulas are really the same thing. So if I tell you that this here is our right angle, we're then able to identify the base and the height. We also learned how to find the area of a parallelogram. To find the area of a parallelogram, we need to multiply the base times the height. So you'll see on a parallelogram, such as this, we don't have any right angles. So in order to find the area, we have to have a right angle. So I'm going to draw in the height here, and there's my right angle. And remember, the right angle is going to let you know where your base and your height come together. So now that I've drawn my height on my parallelogram, I can label my height and my base. So to find the area of a parallelogram, we're going to multiply the base times the height, and we'll then know the area of our parallelogram. So these are the 3 formulas that we now know for finding area. Let's take a look at the first problem on page 120, problem 2a. We first have to ask ourselves, what type of shape is this? Once when we identify that it is a parallelogram, we want to write down the formula that we'll be using. The formula for finding the area of a parallelogram is base times height. So now I just have to identify my base and my height, plug them into my formula, and solve. So my base is 3 centimeters. So I'm going to do 3 times, and my height is 12 centimeters. And I know that my height is 12 centimeters because it's shown with that dotted line right here. So 3 times 12 equals 36, and I need to make sure it's labeled correctly. So the area of this parallelogram is 36 centimeters squared. Now let's take a look at problem 2b. Once again, we're first going to want to identify the type of shape it is so that we know which formula we're working with. And once again, it's a parallelogram, so we're going to write down base times height as our formula. Remember, they give us this right angle here to help us find the base and the height. Remember, the base and the height always come together at a right angle. So I'm told that this dotted line here is 7 centimeters. I then have to look at the other information given. If this side of my parallelogram is 10 centimeters, then the opposite side is as well. Remember, opposite sides of parallelograms are equal or the same. So I now know that this part here is 10 centimeters, and my dotted line on the bottom there is 7 centimeters. If I were to extend my baseline here with that dotted line, I get a right angle. So I can be sure that I have my base and my height. My base is 10 centimeters, and my height is 7 centimeters. And I know that 7 centimeters is my height and not my base because it's shown with a dotted line. So 10 times 7 equals 70. I've got to make sure it's labeled for area. So 70 centimeters squared is the area of this parallelogram. Moving on to problem 2c. We're working our way into composite shapes. You can see here that we have more than one shape. We're going to want to start it just like we did the last problem, which is asking what types of shapes are these, so we know which formulas we're working with. Before I even do that, I want to identify the number of shapes that I have. I see here that I have one shape there and another shape here. So that means I'm going to have to find the area of 2 shapes and add them together to find the total shaded area. Now I want to take a look at these figures to figure out what types of shapes they are. Both of them are parallelograms. So I'm going to be using the formula base times height to find the area of each one. So to find the area of the top figure, I'm going to first identify the base. Remember, if this side here is 12 centimeters, so is this side here. So my base for that top figure is 12 centimeters, and my height is 4 centimeters. So I'm going to multiply 12 times 4, and I'll get 48. So the area of figure 1 is 48 centimeters squared. Now I'm going to take a look at my next figure. I again have to identify my base, which this time is 6 centimeters, and my height, which is 8 centimeters. 6 times 8 is 48, so the area of figure 2 is 48 centimeters squared. Now I have one last step. This is my first step, second step, one last step here, which is to add the area of figure 1 to the area of figure 2 for my total area. 48 plus 48 equals 96 centimeters squared. So the area of this composite shape is 96 centimeters squared. Now for our last problem, problem 2D. You can see here that this is more than one figure, so we have a composite shape again. Before even identifying the types of shapes, let's go ahead and see how many shapes we see here. I see a triangle here, so here's shape 1. And this is a big, long triangle. Can you see that? So I see that triangle there. I then also see a parallelogram here. So there's my second shape, and you can see that this here is a parallelogram. If I don't have 4 right angles, then we know it's not a rectangle. Then I have another triangle here, and I have a rectangle here. These are all actually right angles. That is a rectangle. Okay, so now let's talk about solving this problem. I see that I have a rectangle, I have a triangle, and I have a parallelogram. So I'm going to go ahead and write down all 3 formulas. The formula for a rectangle is length times width. Formula for a triangle is half base times height, and the formula for a parallelogram is base times height. So now I just have to identify the correct parts of each figure and solve. So let's start with my triangle up here. To find the area of this triangle, I first have to identify my base and my height. I'm told that there is a right angle, so that's going to help me find my base and height. So the base of that triangle is 4. The height is 1. 4 times 1 equals 4. And then I must divide that by 2. So the area of this triangle is 2 inches squared. Now I'm going to move on to my parallelogram here. I need to identify my base and my height since the area of my parallelogram requires me to do so. So I know that this is a right angle, which is where my base and my height come together. So this 2 inches is going to be my height, and this 4 inches is going to be my base. So to find the area of this figure, we're going to do 4 times 2, which equals 8. So it is 8 inches squared. Now let's move right along to my triangle here. I can see that this here is a right angle. I know that this 4 inches here must be the same as the opposite side. So if this is 4 inches, that means that over here, that line is also 4 inches. So my base is 2 inches for my triangle, and my height is 4 inches. 2 times 4 equals 8, and then 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So the area of this third figure here is 4 inches squared. Now we have one last figure to find the area of, and that's my rectangle, which means I'm going to be using the formula length times width. I see here that my length is labeled 4.5, and here that my width is labeled 2. So 4.5 times 2 equals 9. So the area of figure 4 is 9 inches squared. Now I want to know the full area, the area of all the shaded shapes put together. So I'm going to need to add those together. So I will need to add 2 inches, which is the area of my first triangle, plus 8 inches, plus 4 inches, which is that second triangle, plus 9 inches. And if we add that all together, we get 23 inches squared. So the area of this figure is 23 inches squared. Okay, now here's a challenge for you. I would like you to solve this problem in your math notebook. Before beginning, let me give you one hint because we were forgetting what these meant the other day. Take a look at this figure here. You'll notice that on each side of this figure is a small black line. What does that line mean? Think about that for a second because you're going to need that information in order to solve this problem. Those little marks on each side tell us that those sides are the same. If all 4 of those sides are the same, what type of shape are we dealing with here? All right, that's the one hint I'm going to give you. Go ahead and open up your math notebooks and give this problem a try for yourself.